Hello and welcome back, everybody. This is Dragothian here. We've got another Rise of Kingdoms video for you today. This is going to be the next, and again, a long line of installments on our Commander Mastery Series guide. Today we're going to be focusing on Eulji Mundeok. He is a very premier epic infantry commander that you can be using on the battlefield. He's mainly used for two purposes. One is going to be your infantry group, full infantry groups on the battlefield and open field. And then also he's a pretty darn good garrison commander. We're going to go through the skills. We're going to go through two talent trees for him, one for open field PvP and one for garrison. And then we're also going to go through the pairings. So again, that's been our kind of our rhythm with the Commander Mastery series. There's a couple little special check boxes for him as well on the pairings sheet. So looking forward to bringing that to you. And that's what this video is all about. So let's get started. Eulji Mundeok, again, there's only a couple epic pairings for infantry that you can bring to the table. Eulji's usually in that conversation because he's very much geared towards infantry damage with his talent trees. So infantry, and then also with the attack tree, that combination is very unique. There isn't any other infantry commander in the list of commanders that we've got that have that set, that infantry and attack tree. Usually it's leadership and attack, or that's really it, right? You don't see many, you don't see many cavalry attack, you don't see many archer attack. Infantry attack is the only one that's got it. So with that being said, we wanted to utilize that when we're talking about our builds, and then also leverage that when we're talking about our garrison and open field builds. So let's go through the skills first. This is where, again, I think Eulji he becomes more of a general commander. And when I say that, usually with infantry, you're not really talking too much about nuking or skill damage. You're talking about reductions and buffs to your attack and defense, your damage reductions coming in, things like that. It's more of like a crowd control type of army where you want to be able to plunk your army in the field and really be able to tank a lot of damage. Eulji puts that on its head a little bit because he's got skill damage. So his main skill actually has a nuking component to it with a direct damage factor. That's going to be a very important thing to keep note of as we get into our pairings, because that will affect who maybe should be the primary in some of these groupings because of this primary skill. So let's go through it really quick. Attacks the target and deals massive damage, 750 damage factor, decreases defense of the target by 30% for 2 seconds. Now, the defense reduction is massive. That 2 seconds is really nice. I wish it was longer. I think if this was a legendary commander, that might have been a 4 or 5 second defense reduction. If you saw that, that would be worth every single penny of a legendary commander. But 2 seconds is nice, especially for an epic commander who you're going to be firing this skill off fairly regularly with the people that you're going to be pairing him up with. Okay, so pretty decent damage and a really nice defense reduction debuff. Okay, the second one's our garrison skill, and again, a defense bonus is really nice for infantry. If you're gearing your whole civilization, all of your troops, all of your armies towards infantry, this will help, because the more infantry you have in your garrison, the more this will apply, and that will also give you a bigger and better defense. And defense is really what it's all about when you're talking about garrison. You want a combination of defense and nuke, and that's actually what Eulji does really well. He has a good nuke on the first skill and a good defense buff for garrison on the second skill. Third one is going to be the passive. It gives a passive 15% attack and defense for all infantry units. Again, this is really where having Eulji in the field with a full infantry group out on the field with his pairings will work really well. This benefits that whole army. That's going to be a really good thing to have. And then finally, this is a really unique skill. So when attacked, you got a 10% chance, and I don't really like a whole lot of 10% chance stuff, but this does tend to fire probably 3 or 4 out of 10 seconds. So it fires fairly regularly. Every 10 seconds, or when you have a 10% chance to increase your own troops' damage by 100% on the next turn. Now, again, this does not impact skill damage. This is strictly just troop damage. So when you're attacking a barbarian or you're attacking another player, that little number that keeps coming up above their army, that's your troop damage. Okay, so if you've got 3,000 going off every second that your troops are attacking, if this triggers, it'll be 100% damage. So you're going to double that. You're going to double that number for 1 turn. Now, the cool thing is you can leverage that skill alongside of your first skill. So say you've done this water attack, which is Eulji's primary skill, and then the fourth skill triggers right afterwards. You're going to have you're going to have your target debuffed by 30% defense, and then you're going to double your own troops attack on that target. That can hurt. That can hurt really bad. And if this triggers a lot, you're going to be in a really good shape in the battlefield when you're talking about taking down whatever it is that you're targeting, because this can help you win a battle that you might not necessarily win based off of tech, based off of the amount of troops or whatever you're going up against. Now, when you're talking about Eulji, again, being an infantry commander, you want to go up against other infantry or you want to go up against cavalry. You do not want to take this commander against archers, especially a really nicely level one with a nice YSG or a Herman or an El Cid. If it's a generic group of archers like a Boudica Osman or something like that, you might be better off. But with somebody who has a fully spec'd archer talent tree, you don't want to take this army against those guys. They're going to rip you apart. One, because they're a direct counter for what you are. But two, also, this guy's a free-to-play infantry army commander. If you're going up against legendary commanders, it's just not going to be very good. With that being said, he holds his own. He does a really good job with what he's geared for, and I think that's really where it comes into effect. Now, again, the expertise, it just brings up the third skill from 10 to 15%. That's all it does for you. So, again, that's not a huge deal, but it does help, okay? And that's where that 15% here comes in, attack and defense. All right, so let's talk about talents, right? Talents are really key, and again, this is where you want to have your guy maxed. I'm going to bring up the PvP talent build first, if it'll let me. There we go. Yeah. All right, so really easy talent build because Garrison is so specific to Garrison stuff. Obviously, most of that is not going to apply on the, in fact, almost all of it is not going to apply on the battlefield. So you really only have 2 trees to work with. You all know that I'm not a huge fan of the attack tree because it's so generic, and it also nerfs skill damage, which Eulji actually has. And then also the extra stuff tends to help you do more damage, but you also take more damage. Like Martial Mastery, for instance, does the skill damage stuff. So I think it's called, yeah, Fight to the Death, which is the one right below the 27 talents text right there. That gives you extra damage at the cost of extra damage coming to you as well. And then on the very bottom where the axe is at, that's called Martial Mastery. You get extra damage at the cost of skill damage. Yeah, normal attack damage increases, but decreases active skill damage, which this guy has active skill damage. You don't want to nerf yourself with your own talents, okay? So with this in mind, it basically takes the entire infantry tree, which is all about tanking, all about health, defense, rage generation. There's a lot to do with the very last one with elite soldiers. It gives you more attack, defense, and health. There's march speed reductions in there. There's all kinds of goodies in there that really help infantry commanders and infantry troops be really successful on the battlefield. That's why we took almost the whole tree. Now, I would have gotten all 50 talents, because if you take the infantry tree all the way, it's 50 talents out of your build. I had to find 3 talents somewhere because I didn't want to give up the dots on the bottom on the attack tree. So there's 2 skills there, Unyielding and Armored Joints, that are very, very crucial. And the reason I say that, with Armored Joints, you get all damage taken reduced by 1.5%. That's all damage. That's troop damage. That's nuke damage. That's really helpful when it comes to infantry because, again, you need to be as tanky as possible. The 6% march speed that you get from the infantry tree with Eulji, probably not that beneficial versus an extra defense or an extra damage reduction that your army will have. Very beneficial versus the march speed. On Yielding, again, you're looking at increasing your counterattack damage. So again, your counterattack damage, very beneficial when it comes to infantry because you don't generally, with the exception of Eulji's primary nuke, you don't generally have a whole lot of nuking on your infantry armies. So having that counterattack damage boost will definitely help. Now, if you want to be a smidge faster, you probably won't notice the actual march speed increase if you were to take that talent in the infantry tree. If you do, go for it. Drop one of those two that I just described on the bottom. You cannot lose effortless. Effortless is a must-have if you're going to be using the attack tree. If you drop one of those two, I would probably go with the counterattack damage. That being said, I personally would rather have the counterattack damage versus the march speed. That's my pick. This is the build that I would go with when you're talking about using Eulji as a primary commander. Again, just to reinforce, these things don't apply if Eulji is the second commander. These talent trees have no effect. It's just the skills that we went over at the beginning of the video, okay? All right, so go ahead and grab that if you want to. By the way, I do have a Discord coming up thanks to a couple of my friends. I'll go ahead and mention them on the next live stream. I do appreciate them helping me out. We're going to have all these things up on the Discord as well once I get it up and running. This is going to be the Garrison version. Now, again, Garrison, you're going to be having infantry, cavalry, archers, and siege units all inside of your city. So going the infantry tree, almost every single skill or every single talent inside of that tree is infantry specific. Like if you have full infantry, or this talent only applies to infantry. So with that in mind, we went almost full on the Garrison tree. And let me see if I can make my thing a little smaller so you can see the whole shebang. Let me make myself just a little smaller. There we go. All right, so we took almost the whole infantry, or almost the whole Garrison tree. The only one we didn't take was march speed, because you don't need march speed while you're in as a garrison. And then we took the 27 talent points it took to get to effortless, and then the other two skills that I was referring to on the previous build. And then I also took one more point because we had one more available and put it into the one dot below. I think that is the armored joints one. Yes. So that gives you an extra 0.5% of defense, which is always helpful when you are being a garrison commander. Again, this would be for if Eulji is your primary garrison commander. He does very well as a free-to-play garrison commander. If you've got access to Charles was basically a buffed up version of this with the defense talent tree. So you want to kind of switch it up a little bit, and I will do a mastery guide on him, but this is a great way for somebody who's building their account and kind of just getting started out to have a very defensive commander in as your garrison commander and help your city survive an attack that's not somebody who's completely overpowering you. If you're equal footing, this should definitely help your city stay up, minimize the amount of troops that you're putting in the hospital, and hopefully eliminate or at least minimize the amount of troop deaths that you take if you're getting attacked. Okay? So hopefully this is what you're looking for Eulji. I think that he's a very primary centered garrison commander. Bring that back down, and let me bring up the pairing. All right. So these are the pairings that I went with. Eulji is not really meant for PvE. I do have him as paired with any AoE commander primary for PvE if you want to. He doesn't really bring a whole lot to the table when it comes to PvE, even in rallies for forts or anything like that. He just doesn't bring a whole lot. You're usually going to be rallying with cavalry armies with high nuke. And then again, if you're just killing barbarians or whatever, you want to get the most that you can out of your action points. So you're going to be using AoE commanders along with a healer or dual AoE commanders. So Eulji's not really going to be used for PvE, but you can, and you could use him as a secondary to any AoE commander, and that would be just fine. If that's what you're starting out with, that's what you got to work with. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to mostly talk about his pairings with PvP, and then again, we'll go over his kind of check boxes on what makes him special and kind of his summary, if that makes sense. So first off, again, if you've got Richard or Charles, they make great primaries to Eulji because they have the infantry and the defense talent trees. Those are the best that you can have talent tree wise for an infantry troop on the battlefield or an infantry army on the battlefield. So you want to have Richard or Charles primary if you're able to pair them up with Eulji, if that's the way that you want to go. You can use Eulji as a primary, but I really prefer the defense tree over the attack tree, and to me, that's a better tree to have. It just gives you more tankiness, which again is what having the infantry army is all about. If you've got both of those guys, I would pair those guys up and then use Eulji with a Scipio or a Sun Tzu, which is going down the line here. Scipio, Sun Tzu. Even an Osman would give you really nice work because he's got nuke as well. He's also got an expansion to your troops. Those are all really good. And then Boudica is very good as well because she's also got nuke and she's also got troop damage buffs, and it all kind of synergizes together really well. So those are your 4 free-to-play versions kind of when it comes to pairing Eulji up. And again, you can go, with the exception of Scipio, you can go Eulji primary on any of those and that would be fine. I personally would prefer with Sun Tzu, with Boudica, and with Osman. I take that back. With Sun Tzu, I would use Sun Tzu as primary because he has the infantry and the skill tree, which will enhance Eulji's nuke. I would personally go that route. I would have Sun Tzu primary. For Boudica and Osman, I actually, if you're going to use these guys for PvP with a full infantry group, I would use Eulji primary because he's got the infantry talent tree, whereas Boudica and Osman do not. Now, if you have mixed troops, because I've been having a lot of people on my channel come to me and say, what about mixed troops? If you have mixed troops, Boudica and Osman are great with mixed troops, and I would actually use them as primary if you don't have a full infantry army. Reason being, again, they both have the skill talent path. You want to have that skill talent path to enhance all the nukes and all of the skill damage that's coming out of both of those commanders. So I definitely recommend both of them being primary if you're mixed troop. Okay, and then Osman with the leadership tree even has mixed troop talents inside of the leadership tree, the armed and armored to the teeth. Those are both really good to grab if you're using a mixed troop army. I would have Osman primary, Eulji secondary in that scenario. Now, if you've got the extra legendaries just laying around and they're usable, Julius Caesar primary would work really well because, again, of his first skill, enhancing all damage by 30%. If you got that maxed, that would go directly towards Eulji's primary 750 direct damage skill at the very beginning. Barca's a really good combination. I probably would use him secondary here. I prefer the infantry army or infantry talent tree with a full infantry army. Just like I use Sun Tzu with, I would use Eulji primary and then Barca secondary to get that infantry talent tree alongside of the attack tree. Frederick's an interesting combination here too. I did want to throw him in there. He's got the leadership and skill talent trees. I think that would work really well. Just like with Osman, it's the same setup. I would use Frederick primary if you have him skilled up and leveled up. And I would use, if you have mixed troops, I would use armed and armored to the teeth and leadership talent tree. If not, then I would take that up to strategic prowess and then go all the way to rejuvenate and clarity for the skill talent path. So that's the way I would do it. And again, I know I just threw a bunch of talents out there that many of you might not know about. I'll be doing talent guides for all these guys. I'm trying to hit every type of combination of talent tree so that I can give you at least baselines for a lot of this stuff. Again, if this is your free-to-play army commander and you're not that far along in the game, this guy paired up with Scipio, Sun Tzu, Boudica, or Osman, the way I described before, will be just fine on the battlefield, will help you in your role to help your alliance be successful in Arc, in open field war, capturing shrines in Lost Kingdom, things like that. That'll be very helpful. Just some summary points here. So he's very good as a primary or secondary because he's not only an infantry commander that does really good with troop attack, but he's also got a pretty decent nuke, and he's also got a very good defense debuff. So all that stuff coming together is a really nice general commander that has a specific troop type. Really helps to have that guy in your repertoire and have him maxed out. Also gives a bit more punch to infantry because, again, like I said, infantry tends to be more of a tanky type of troop type. When you're on the battlefield, you want to tank as much as you can. Eulji not only has a direct damage factor skill damage, but he also has got that defense debuff as well. So that combination along with the attack buff on the 4th skill just kind of gives him a little more punch from an infantry army that somebody might not necessarily be expecting. He's good paired as a secondary to General Nuke. That's why we were talking about Boudica and Osman and even Scipio, or I'm sorry, not Scipio, Sun Tzu having infantry and skill damage, and then also Frederick. He's good paired up as a secondary for a commander that's got the skill damage talent tree. because he would be enhanced even further by the skill damage, the skill regeneration with the rage regen that the skill tree provides. And then again, we already went over it earlier, but he's a great free-to-play Garrison commander as primary. He's got the counterattack damage, he's got defense reduction, he's got defense himself, he's got nuke, he's got everything that you really want in a miniature version that doesn't quite have legendary status when it comes to the numbers, but it's got legendary capability in an epic package. So the numbers are toned down because he's epic, but he still does legendary type things, just not quite as well as a legendary. So that's what makes him a really good Garrison commander. And I showed you that talent tree earlier. That's a really good way to get started in the game if you're just starting up, or if you're starting a secondary account, or whatever you want to do. So I hope this guide was helpful. Please like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit that like button. And again, just really hope that these guides are helpful for you all. I'm going to hit this all the way through all the commanders, and I hope you guys are enjoying. Take care, have a good day, and cheers. Y'all have a good time.